your childhood is absolutely impacting your career life, your money life, and your success, whether you're aware of it or not. And this doesn't mean you had to have gone through severe trauma like I have or my guest on today's show. It could be unique relationships, messages that were said, things that were unspoken, certain area where you lived and how things were just done at that time. And all of these end up getting absorbed. Children are like sponges. And then subconsciously, we act out on those beliefs that have been so ingrained later in life. And then this can impact your self esteem, making it harder to pursue certain goals, dreams, and even take risks. It can lead to emotional difficulty, having you avoid certain types of relationships or asking for things that you want or putting yourself on a limb for certain opportunities that you may want. And they can seem so isolated, but the dots are really all connected. And I brought on one of my favorite podcast hosts, Paul Gilmartin. He is the host of the #1 mental health podcast for many, many years. It's an amazing show. I've been on his show, and that's linked inside the show notes. And he used to be on TV for a long time, and he's also a comedian. And we both share very openly how things that have happened in childhood and the messages that we picked up, the ones we knew about, the ones we didn't know about, how this impacted our success and caused drama in career and money later on. Be prepared to have your mind blown into shooketh land. Okay, so this is so good. You're going to love this, Paul. I did not know that my therapist listened to my episode on your show, which is, by the way, you guys, episode 663 on the mental illness happy hour. It is my favorite podcast.
It's a great episode.
I thought it was really good. Oh, that says a lot coming from you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I loved it. As soon as we finished recording, I was like, oh, that's a gem.
We went deep, and I'm giving a trigger warning for some of you, just so you know that, but the link will be in the show notes and it's in the description on YouTube. So I have there's a full pit crew to keep me alive. One of which is my therapist. It's not like I sit with my therapist and tell her which shows I've been on. That'd be kind of weird. But I didn't know she listened to your show. So she heard the episode. It's text message. I'm listening to one of my favorite shows, the Mental Illness Happy Hour. And there you are. There's some important stuff in here to talk about more in therapy.
That's so fantastic.
Truer words have never been spoken.
So fantastic.
Isn't that great? I have the best therapist. I was
my God.
And it's not, I just want you guys to be able to hear from two people where on the outside, you really might think we have it together. And we have it together in some areas, but not as together as you would think. And your career, Paul, is one where I could see a majority of people, since you've been on TV on a long running show, you're a comedian that actually gets paid. You have one of the top podcasts in the entire world in a very competitive mental health space. They could come up with all sorts of assumptions about you, most of which aren't true. But I want to go back to the TV part of your career. What led you there? Did you always want a career in front of the camera? Did it just happen?
No, I did. I remember I always wanted to do stand-up. I fell in love with George Carlin's stand-up. I identified very much as a fourth grader in a Catholic school, hearing him question authority and make fun of a lot of the bullshit in the Catholic Church. I was just like, oh, this is my guy. And all of my favorite classmates were always people that were kind of irreverent, had a good sense of humor, and our currency was making each other laugh. So, and I remember vividly, being 12 years old, somewhere around there, watching The Tonight Show, and a stand-up comedian and everybody was laughing, and I wasn't laughing, and I realized, oh, I'm studying them. And so from the, kind of that moment on, I really wanted to be either a stand-up comedian or kind of do something like Johnny Carson did. But then I brushed it aside, went to college, was studying to go to medical school, was getting ready to take the MCATs, and there was a stand-up competition at my college, and my roommate talked me into doing it because he knew me. He knew me, and he's still my best friend today. And he said, you got to do this. And so I was like, well, I'll take an acting class to get, learn how to get more comfortable being in front of people. And I fell in love with acting and changed my major to theater. And then when I got out, I was too afraid to do stand-up because the writing was on the wall that I was never going to make the Second City troupe. And as crushed as I was, I'm glad in some ways that I didn't, because it forced me to go write and act, to not be dependent on somebody hiring me to be in a troupe. So now I had something that I could go and hit the road and work when I want to and when I didn't want to. But all along, the goal was kind of to ultimately move to Los Angeles and get a sitcom or expand the stand-up career. And I moved out here and got nothing for that first year and a half and was about to give up. I did the audition for dinner in a movie, and I thought it went pretty mediocre. And they called me back. You know what callbacks are, right?
Yeah.
Second round of auditions. And I didn't give a shit. And that was the one where they paired me with the woman laying into her, making fun of her. And I guess they liked it, but I left there thinking she ruined it for both of us. And one of the reasons I didn't give a shit is I had resigned myself to the fact that I'm never going to be in front of the camera with no desperation. And I was just myself.
Was
And
that a form of self-protection for you? Like of just not giving a shit?
I don't know. That's an interesting question. It was more that I was just I didn't have any expectations. Whereas a lot of time I go into something, I need to get, this is going to further my career. This is going to be money that I need to pay rent. And I didn't have any of that. And so all of a sudden I was on TV weekly, and I realized, God, probably in the first 8 episodes, there's a lot of this that I don't like.
What didn't you like? That's just so interesting to me, because
compromise.
What we think we want and dream about, and this happened to me as a newscaster too, and fantasized about and living that life, and then you're met with the reality of it. So what was your fantasy of it, and then what was quickly the reality? Like you said, like I don't like some of this.
I had never pictured how much compromise would be necessary, especially once we started endorsing products on the show, holding them up and talking about Kraft macaroni and cheese. Well, they didn't want anything edgy in the entire segment where their product, which sure as you sales, they sell you out. They're all about getting as much money, and they don't give a shit about the quality of the show or the length of the show. So it's always this battle between sales and the show the show cares about the listeners, sales doesn't. And so it was always that battle, and eventually sales just bit by bit chipped away at it. Shorter segments, at more censorship. But even before we got to that point, the critical voice in my head was so mean and also so kind of narcissistic and self-involved, thinking that anybody gave a shit about the quality of my outside the show. That I was so worried about what my peers thought. And my peers were like, yeah, man, it's a great show. etc. And if they didn't, they kept their mouths shut. But I think most of my peers, at least the guys I came up with, they were envious that I had this weekly
you had
gig.
A paying gig.
Paying gig. I didn't have to be slogging it out on the road 40 weeks a year to pay rent. I was able to stay in town and go out when I felt like it. So there were many parts of it that was good, but it was an improvised show. And so we're writing it as we're doing it. So 10 hours of coming up with something on the spot while the crew is waiting, knowing that 1 million plus people are going to see what you come up with every week.
That's very vulnerable.
It's stressful stressful, especially when you're used to the autonomy of doing stand-up and you have a mean voice in your head. I would seek refuge in drugs and alcohol when I would come home. I never got loaded while I was on stage or in front of the camera, but it's at the height of the show's popularity. I remember I'd always dreamed of the show taking a billboard out on Sunset Boulevard, and I went one year. They took a billboard out, and I went and looked at it, and I lost respect for Sunset Boulevard.
You weren't into seeing your mug up there?
No. It was just, if your brain thinks you're a piece of shit, no amount of success will quiet that part of your brain. You need to do work unrelated to your profession.
Yet, and I'm guessing you have some of this in you too, yet most of us continue to seek the external validation through this kind of work or whatever kind of work I was in. So I kept chasing it, but it never scratched the itch. Does that make sense?
It doesn't. Yes. And that's the phrase I use. It doesn't scratch the itch with emptiness and anxiety, and something's missing that I can't put my finger on. So I started seeing a psychiatrist, and he said, I, in good conscience, cannot continue to see you until you give up drugs and alcohol, because that's increasing your depression. You're not giving me anything to work with. And so I finally got help. And that's really when I came to the starting line. It didn't solve anything. It gave me a chance to begin to solve things and take a good hard look at how selfish and afraid I was, how bad my coping mechanisms were, how self-involved I was, how kind of cold, and how the lengths I would go to be the center of attention or get validation. And it makes me cringe thinking about it, but I'd like to think I'm not that guy today. And the other thing that I had to take a good hard look at is how I treated women. One night stands, massage parlors, stuff I really have a hard time pressuring women into sex. I had always kind of, and I'm talking verbally, like,
yeah, like the manipulation. The verbal
manipulation, because I'd always thought violation has to be physical. You have to be restraining somebody. It never occurred to me that you're like, oh, come on, you're, et cetera, just bullshit, just not. And if she didn't forcefully say, no, I don't want to do this, or even just say matter-of-factly, no, I want to do this, I would be like, oh, well, she's smiling and she's giggling and she's saying, oh, I don't like my tan lines, or I don't like this. It never occurred to me that this was her way of saying no, but trying not to hurt my feelings.
Well, you were addicted to the validation you needed.
Yeah.
And your addiction.
Yeah.
Now, when you got sober, did that addiction to validation ramp up, stay the same?
No, it disappeared for probably, no, I would say it's always been there to some degree, but I became aware of it, that I had been using the wrong tools to try to fill, that I needed to start helping other people, being of service, getting out of myself rather than obsessing about myself more, learning the difference between self-reflection and self-obsession.
Isn't it difficult when you look back, like seeing that version of you who was using in your career and then the sober version of you in that career? You didn't have your crutch. Like I always say, if I was a substance addict, I would be dead in a pile of cocaine in Brazil already. I don't have substances to go to. I have other addictions, right? People, places, and things. But you take out that substance, now you're left with all of your shit. So that had to have really been wild in having a, like, so to speak, like front-facing career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely challenging, but I had such a great support network around me, and it's a blessing living in a city like Los Angeles where there's a gazillion support groups. And if you go to one and you don't like the vibe, find another one. I feel sorry for people who live in a small town in the middle of nowhere where, like, if there's somebody really annoying dominating their support group meeting and that's the only meeting they got. With Zoom now, it's much better. You have options, but still, Zoom can't really mimic the getting a hug from somebody, being in the same room with them. But yeah, I faced my shit in layers. It was hard, but I don't think I've ever done anything in my life that was as worth the time and effort spent, because it's an umbrella that covers everything. Our sickness, no matter what it is, it degrades everything because it's the filter we view reality through.
It's how we do one thing, we do all things. Like as a codependent, recovering codependent, I remember I said to my sponsor in my main program, I don't know, I think it was four years in, and I was like, you know what? I think my codependency is showing up in my place of work. It's like, yeah, no, that was great. I really didn't see. I thought it was in love relationships and family dynamics and that kind of stuff. How did your addictive side of your personality show up in work? Like in forms of maybe how it
Uh,
sabotaged you looking back?
yes, the self-obsession, taking myself too seriously, trouble letting go of the results and just going, okay, it's not how you wanted it to go, but it's good enough. Good enough is really hard for addicts and people who were kind of raised around conditional love, whether it was real or imagined. So that was difficult. One of my bad coping mechanisms is when I get really insecure, I get dirty. My jokes get blue.
Like you go,
I
are you someone who go, I mean, I listen to your show, so I know where you can go. Like you go, there's a gray area, but you like go a little too deep in the gray. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. I remember one episode of Dinner and a Movie we were doing, and there was something with a cake that was just really delicious. And I was like, oh my God, this cake is so good. And then I started mimicking that I was fucking the cake. And of course, they couldn't use that on
Yeah,
air.
of
It made the
course.
crew laugh. But God, I have to imagine there were people in the crew that were like, that guy needs to get to therapy. It was, I had no boundaries or very little boundaries. And I also, in terms of like imagining what other people's boundaries might be.
Like the respect of someone else might
Yeah,
be uncomfortable with
yeah,
that.
talking about sex freely or just launching into a diatribe about politics, just to really kind of know very little sense of the fact that what I am interested in talking about might not be what somebody else is interested
Do you
in
think
talking about.
do you think part of you did that even subconsciously to get the rise because it gave you some juice, like to get the laugh, to
Yeah,
get the shock value?
yeah, yeah. It is a form of saying, look at me. And also, I think there was a lot of rage underneath there. When I was going through Second City's training program, our teacher was asking for suggestions for an improv game we were going to do. And I don't even remember what my suggestion was, but he stopped the class and he looked at me and he said, you are so hostile. I thought I was mellow, easygoing, funny, charming. And yeah, maybe I could be those things sometimes, but my humor was a weapon. My humor was a weapon. And I think a lot of comedians, whether that weapon is to turn on themselves or to kind of turn on other people or society. So I started going to therapy. Actually, the moment that made me realize I really fucking need help is I was stuck in traffic in Chicago and I just lose my shit. I'm at a red light, it turns green, but people are still ignoring me, crossing in front of me. I'm laying on my horn. Pretty soon, my head's out the window. And all of a sudden, like out of a time machine, this guy from like the 50s with the fedora, the briefcase, the trench coat, his face is an inch from mine. And with a mixture of pity and disbelief, he looks me right in the face. He goes, son, get a hold of yourself. Isn't it interesting how somebody who has only known you for 10 seconds can see deeper into you than you can see deeper into yourself?
I've had this happen a couple times. One was a flight attendant.
Yeah. What happened?
And she saw my shit. I've shared it in another episode on the show. And we proceeded to go into a crash landing, which that's a whole nother story. I was so in my disease and I was in a relationship with an active addict and I was doing the whole codependent dance. I can save him if he loved me enough. I went to support programs to take notes to try to fix him, all the things. I was in pure insanity. She saw my insanity and she didn't buy into my mask. She saw through the mask, and I didn't even say anything to her.
What'd she say?
She asked me, just coming on a plane, how are you today? She was very delightful. And I always had some bullshit canned answer because I was always miserable. So I knew that wasn't always, sometimes I would say that for the laugh, like, oh, miserable. And then people would laugh. But I said, it's been a day. It's been a tough day, something like that. And she was like, well, people are in your life for a reason or a season or a lifetime. And holding on too long, you're going to get dragged.
Wow. That's some like, ninja fucking codependent recovery.
So sick. I was in my false self, as we call it, right? Like, I don't even know what I said. I said some gloss over bullshit. And I
just bring me the vodka, bitch.
Exactly. And I avoided eye contact with her because I was like, she sees me. And this is why, Paul, I had to quit TV. And I'm fascinated how you fucking lasted so long. And I don't know if it was because you were using at night. When that veil of denial of all the abuse I suffered from me going on all the gang rape, someone was murdered, was a journalist, it started puncturing that denial I was in. I was literally gonna have a nervous breakdown on the air and be one of those people because I just pictured all these eyes micro dissecting me, and I couldn't handle it. Yeah. And I find it fascinating how long you lasted when your self-worth was in the toilet. How did you do that?
Well, before I answer that, I want to, if she had asked me, how are you doing? I would have said, in all seriousness, I hope we crash so I don't have to make the decision.
And you would have been going for the highly inappropriate laugh.
Yes. Yes. I probably wouldn't have said that, but if I was to be honest, because when we would experience turbulence, I remember chuckling that everybody would be, white knuckling it and terrified. And I'd be like, please fucking go down because I don't have the balls to kill myself. But as far as the other thing, the really heavy shit, the really heavy trauma didn't start getting processed until the show had been off the air for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And I was distracting myself with video games and woodworking, obsessively woodworking, and occasionally pornography as well.
Okay, but that is the most random lineup I've ever heard in my life. Yes, that's hysterical.
Yeah. Yeah.
Porn and woodworking, folks.
Dude, if you were a 40-year-old man, you would know that they're very synonymous, because wood or a good project or a good tool it's that same high from sex. It's so completely engrossing, not for everybody that woodworks, but for people who are using woodworking for the love of the craft, but also because they're running from something in their life. I mean, I couldn't even really follow a conversation with my then wife at dinner because I was thinking about, what joint am I going to use on that table leg? What wood should I use? It was a way for me to not be present, to feel, now that I wasn't numbing myself with drugs and alcohol, I was numbing myself with woodworking.
That's why it's so important that you do on your show. I hope I do a good job for you guys on here. Literally, you can be addicted to anything that takes you outside of yourself, anything that you get that consumed with. Our mutual friend Andrea, she's addicted to Candy Crush, and it's not a fake addiction. I'm talking, she's on level like 5,725 and like a Hall of Fame or some shit.
Wow.
Okay. And it's like, what are you using to distract yourself from feeling? Is that how you would, if someone were to ask you, Paul, do you think this is like an addiction of mine, or I'm just like super passionate about it? What would you ask them to help discern that?
I would say, is it degrading the quality of intimacy and presence in your life? Is it throwing your life out of balance? Are you missing appointments to do this thing? Are you letting people down, not in a codependent way, but in terms of what their expectations are of you to show up are? That would be the first question I would ask. It's, I think, to have any concept of what moderation or balance looks like, because when we enjoy something, we want to run the wheels off it. And it was 8 hours a day of woodworking. And I'm grateful that I put that time in, and I'm back to working now. But there was a period when I was processing the childhood trauma that I completely lost interest in woodworking for years. And it wasn't until maybe, I don't know, maybe 5 years after I started processing that stuff that I began to take an interest. But the passion for it is, I'd say maybe it's kind of back for it. And I'd say it's maybe 50% of what it is, but I think it's a good moderate thing. I'm able to have conversations. I'm able to be present with my.
Whereas he showed up for the interview instead of woodworking.
Yeah, yeah. And I've been off the video games and pornography, and my love of music and woodworking comes back when I do that.
What signs, whether it's in your body, your thoughts, or both, are kind of like red flag, little warning signs that you might be slipping into addictive behavior again?
That's a great question. Kind of a restlessness, kind of an irritability and impatience, and things that normally bring me pleasure. I don't feel any pleasure in them. So it could be watching a documentary. I love documentaries, but when I'm obsessively playing a video game and it's just like, oh, it's too slow. I need something that feels like that cattle prod, that I feel that jolt. And in the absence of that. And so for me, when I then begin to stop doing the dopamine with addictive things, my body kind of, in my brain and my system kind of wind down. And then I'm able to begin to experience the beautiful, subtle things. I'm able to be more social. I have trouble socializing when I'm in the dopamine overdosing. I'd be hanging out with my hockey friends after a skate, and I'd just be like, oh, these conversations are boring. I just want to get back and play my video game and get to the next level. And last night, I hung out for an hour, just talking about history with one of the guys and books we love. And when I was obsessively playing my video game, I'd be like, get me the fuck out of here.
And for me, it wasn't the conventional stuff, right? I picked socially acceptable and celebrated forms of exercise addiction and workaholism.
Yeah.
So my disease,
kind of jealous, right, of people that it's at their addiction.
Everyone says that to me, and because there is a payoff, right? But
there is a payoff.
But man, it still ended up in me going to off myself. I mean,
you're still lonely. You may have money, but you're fucking lonely.
I was rich, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically bankrupt. But on the outside, right, the package looked pretty cute. And if you are restless, irritable, discontent, chasing more of something, it's not gonna get you there. I just would say I made my first million by the time I was 30. You know what I told myself when I wasn't happy? Well, I'll be happy when I have two. I'll be happy when I land this client. I'll be happy when I'm this particular dress size. Yes. I'll be happy when. And I think that's also a big warning sign if you're thinking shit like that.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying because then you think to yourself, what's it going to take for me? When I see like a rock star take their life, I'm never surprised, because if they don't feel like connected to other human beings, if they don't have something in their life that's bringing them pleasure, no amount of, because you're going to get used to the 20,000 fans. It may still be exciting, but, and I'm not comparing my career to a rock star, but I've been in the position that people professionally envy. And it doesn't matter what car you're driving around in, if it's a Mercedes or a Kia, if you're suicidal.
Yeah. And then the people around you unless you have some very special people, they can't see that you're not well. How could Paul not be okay? You are a comedian who's getting paid to be on TV. You live in Los Angeles. You're getting all these chicks. It's like they can't see it, because for a lot of people, that's what you dream of. So then it creates the isolation and the feeling of being more alone.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And going deeper into self, trying to figure out what's going on. And the phrase in recovery is you can't fix a broken brain with a broken brain. Even though I don't like
figuring it out is I mean, when I look back, I've probably spent, I don't know, cumulative 10 years of my life trying to figure it out, figure out what's wrong with me, figure out why it's not working, figure out why I wasn't happy.
And it's almost impossible by ourselves. I would say impossible.
I agree.
By ourselves.
I agree. Yeah. Why do you think it is? There's, we've all heard about, like, comedians. I mean, obviously the percentage of comedians who commit suicide or commit suicide by way of addiction is incredibly high. And there's a lot of sarcastic kind of jokes about it, but you're around a lot of these people. You are one of these people. Why is it that so many comedians and even, people in front of the spotlight, so to speak?
I don't think it's as a result of what they do. I think it speaks to the fact that what they do, which was a coping mechanism, they weren't funny or the center of attention or learning how to put on a mask and act merely for the joy of the craft. There's usually because they had to survive. That was the role that they either adopted or kind of were assigned in their family of origin or in their peer group. You need connectivity. I had an epiphany several years into recovery that I had thought that safety was going to come from being impressive. And I discovered in my support groups, safety, a feeling of safety, came from community, which needed to happen from me sharing the ugly parts of myself.
So the safety came from you being vulnerable in a safe setting.
Rather than impressive or trying to be impressive. I don't know if I ever was impressive, but that was what I wanted to do. It's like, oh, I want to distance myself from everybody and stand out. And then I wonder why I feel distance from everybody.
I can really relate to that. Because I said it on your episode, which, again, you guys, the link to that episode is in the show notes. You have to listen to it. But I showed up to a recovery meeting wearing like a full-on like suit with a Louis Vuitton bag. Now, if you've ever been in a recovery meeting, an in-person support group of any kind, I mean, I've been outpatient before. People are basically wearing pajamas. Okay. Yeah. Like, we're lucky they have pants on. And I showed up just like what you said. It wasn't because I thought I was better than other people. In fact, it was the opposite.
Right.
I was a piece of shit. And I thought I had to show them I wasn't totally fucked up.
And the majority of them probably went, oh, she needs a hug.
Exactly. And thankfully, there were people who've done for further along the journey than I was that gave that space to me and did that for me. And that's why it's so important. I'm fascinated that you went into a career where you're highly visible and highly seen, because, and I want you to go into, if you're comfortable sharing it, a little more of what's gone on in your childhood trauma, childhood dysfunction, because wasn't it safer for you in your childhood to kind of fly under the radar, or was it safer for you in childhood to stand out?
It was safer around my mom to fly under the radar because she kind of parentified me, and there was kind of covert incest, physical boundaries, things where she would be caring for my body as a mother, but totally unnecessary things being done. I don't know if I shared with you, but she took my temperature rectally till I was 8. And I just remember feeling tricked and being like, why are we still doing it this way? And she said, well, I'm afraid you're going to bite down on the thermometer. She didn't do it with my brother. And I just remember pushing it out of my mind. And I would just shut down. She would bring me in with all this praise. And then she would say, oh, your mom's cutest, most adorable. And she'd squeeze my face. And then she'd say, but you're rotten to the core. So it's like I could never really relax around her. I never really felt safe. I felt seen, but seen like I was exposed.
You were like objectified.
Objectified, absolutely. And with my dad, it was the opposite. He was trapped in his own kind of alcoholic, self-obsessed thing. And so I wanted his attention and approval. And he was neglectful, but not abusive, although I suppose neglect is a form of abuse. You see your wife is grabbing your son's ass and telling him how attractive he is.
And then you don't do anything.
And you don't do anything.
We had the very similar dynamic.
Yeah,
Mom, dad,
yeah.
dad, didn't emotional abandonment.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also think a big part of it was wanting to be popular with girls. It was just a feeling of look at me, don't look at me.
And where did the don't look at me play out in your career? Because the look at me in your career is obvious. But where did the don't look at me show up? Was that in you doing some subconscious self-sabotaging of it?
Yes, in like 1990. So I'd been doing stand-up maybe for 3 years. And he took a liking to me and he said, I think you do great on Letterman. I'm going to recommend you. And I never followed up with a phone call because I felt like if I get that attention, I'm not going to be able to follow it through on the road as a headliner. I'm not ready yet. And part of that might have been true, but I did a comedy festival. After I got sober in 2003 and in 2004, I started taking comedic chances instead of doing straight monology as myself. I also started.
What's monology? That's a
Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, okay.
So I started performing as a character, which was a satire of things that I was angry about politically. So he was a super right-wing, kind of hypocritical Christian on paper, but not Christian in his actions. And this was before Stephen Colbert started doing his thing. So it got a lot of attention. And 1 month into doing this character, HBO was like, we want you at the Aspen Comedy Festival, and we're going to put you in the show that gets the most attention. And we want to have some meetings with you. And I had one meeting with them and I was like, yeah, I don't know if I would cut it as the star of a show. And not that it would have ever happened, but I never pursued it. So there's things like that all throughout my career.
Let's dig on this though. I have several videos and several podcast episodes that went mega viral on the fear of being seen and visibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people are shook at hearing some of those subtle things that we do, like even procrastination, avoidance, not following up, not making the phone call, not asking the question. But when you said about the Letterman thing, like I was afraid I wouldn't be able to like handle it. Go deeper into that.
It's a fear of the imposter being discovered. And I think that's tied to perfectionism. So it was a fear of responsibility and not being able to deliver. And then it's like you're standing on top of a ladder with I was comfortable being a touring road comedian where if I had a shitty show one night, it's off into the ether.
It's in like bumfuck Kentucky somewhere.
Exactly. So I would be comfortable with that kind of responsibility and being able to deliver. I was comfortable with. I would say even sometimes on the show that I did, I felt that I was a good TV host. I felt that I was funny. Sometimes there were comedic choices I made that I'd anguish over, but I think I did a lot of stuff on that show that I'm proud of, as well as the people that I worked with, where we had a lot of fun. And I think we did some creative stuff, but we focus on the mistakes rather than the victories. And like when I would do stand-up, and this is really common with stand-ups, is if there's somebody not laughing at us, we focus on them rather than people enjoying us.
But that's people's biggest fear of why they don't write the book, don't start the podcast, don't even audition. It's like, or don't do like public speaking. is that you kind of land a joke or you say a story and like all the audience is just like deadpan. I mean, I know all the blood would probably run out of my body immediately.
Well, I can tell you by the 300th time it happens, it's not as big of a deal. I got sober in July of 03. And up until that point, the holy grail that I wanted was to have my own Comedy Central half-hour special, and kept submitting, getting rejected. I get sober in July of 03. They call and they say, we want you to do a half-hour special. And I remember thinking, okay, yeah, I could take it or leave it. Yeah, I was excited, but it wasn't going to define me because I had already kind of begun to realize, oh, there's this new path of connection and service and et cetera, that was beginning to fill me up. And I remember being backstage, getting ready to go out and film it. And I don't know if I'd ever been as relaxed in that moment. I just felt like this is where I'm supposed to be in the universe. I should have been nervous because I fucking ate it.
Oh,
I chewed it.
God, I was hoping the story was going to end differently.
Chewed it. And I went up to and even my friends who were there knew they couldn't lie. They were like, boy, that was rough. I had been a stand-up long enough to know, and I'd done enough TV as a stand-up to know that in post, they will sweeten it. They'll bring the laughs up. So I knew I just have to pretend I'm doing great because somebody watching
pull it off. Yeah.
Those people watching it will have no idea that I tanked it. And I remember going up to my hotel room and I was going back and forth between, oh God, what a fucking piece of shit that was. I should have focused more, or I should have opened with this joke instead of that one, and saying, fucking let it go. You did the best you could. And I turned on the TV and the movie adaptation was on. And one of the characters said, and I'm paraphrasing, who you are isn't defined by who loves you. It's defined by what you love. And I just felt like the universe was saying, there's a larger plan, man. Just keep putting love out into the world. You can't control who digs you, but you can control the love that you put out there. And it sounds kind of corny, but it was true. And I felt comforted in that moment. And my special came out. And the next day I was in a hardware store and this person pulled me aside and they're like, I saw your special last night. It was so great. And I thought they have no idea how badly I ate it.
But I'm sure there was a lot of people that actually really thought it was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where are you at with being seen now? Because your show has amassed so much success. So there's a high visibility factor there. Does any amount of that bring up anything in you? If you got a call right now about HBO wanting to do a special or a Netflix special, or
I'd be super excited. I would embrace them because I feel like now I've had enough time to self-reflect and see that warped part of my brain that is afraid of not being able to deliver. I now have the concept of good enough rather than it's death if it's not perfect. So yeah, I've actually been looking to get stage time to do more of my character because I just love writing for this character. I love writing satire. And now I'm trying to dip my toe into doing public speaking, like corporate work, not only because I think I would like it and I think it could maybe help somebody, but also because I need an additional revenue stream. I walked away from a revenue stream for ethical reasons about 4 or 5 months ago. And so things are really kind of sketchy financially right now. And it's causing tremendous insomnia. I'm getting like 3 hours of sleep on some nights and I'm tired.
Yeah, your recovery gets tested, right?
Yeah.
The work you've done in being able to surrender and trust and have faith that it's all going to work out.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
That money thing is why I talk about money all the time, is because it brings up all of our stuff. It can go down to worth. How did I get here? Am I going to be okay? Am I going to be safe? Am I going to be taken care of?
I feel dumb. I feel like I didn't prepare. I right now, if things don't change financially, I don't know if I'll ever be able to retire. And the thought of trying to find a way to earn money in my 70s or whatever, but as somebody in recovery, that's a bad neighborhood to go down. I got to put the crystal ball away and say, look, would I have predicted that I would be the age I am now and doing a podcast about mental health? Fuck no. So then why waste time in front of my crystal ball trying to predict where I'm going to be in 5 years? Just try to take principled actions, keep doing the things you're doing, the good things that you're doing, staying connected, being transparent, helping other people, and see what the universe has in store for you, because it's probably better than your head thinks it's going to be.
When you talk about healing and community, and you're so passionate about it, which I love, I don't think I would have understood you 9 years ago. I don't think I would have gotten it. What do you mean by healing and community? We can't really truly heal alone. To me, what I would have thought of would be like, you want me to join like a hippie commune.
Right. For me, it took the form of my pain being witnessed, sharing the most painful things in my life, either one-on-one with somebody from my support group or in a group setting. And I hadn't really shared the full details of what my past had looked like. And I was leading the meeting one night, and I shared that, and I immediately was like, oh my God, that was a mistake. None of them are going to want anything to do with me. I am the guy that fucked them up, which was not entirely true. Some of them were objectifiers of men and used and cheated and
exactly.
et cetera. And a group of us went out for dinner afterwards, and I'm sitting at the table and I'm just lost in my thoughts. And this female fellow, Sarah, said, "What are you thinking about?" I took a deep breath and I went, "I'm just so regretting what I shared." She's like, "Why?" I said, "Because I was such a pig. What woman is going to want to be friends with me, knowing that is a part of me?" And she said, "Can't you see that was you just trying to cope, probably because of your childhood? That's not really the authentic you."
You were objectified. So then you became someone who objectified people.
Right. Which is not an excuse,
No.
but it is not uncommon. It's kind of textbook.
Yeah.
And I started to cry. And that was the first time I felt truly the ugly part of me opening up and somebody looking in and going, "I still love you."
I think that's it there is when we are in a space where we share the ugly part, the parts that cause us the most shame, and see that there are genuine people who still love, respect, and accept us.
Yeah. Then go to me as the guy for advice or to open up, to get a male opinion. And they tell me I feel safe around you. And that it blows my mind. I never would have imagined that I could be that for somebody. And there was
I feel that way around you.
Oh, thank you.
That says a lot.
Yeah, I feel that way.
My story.
I feel that way around you too. And there was another moment that was really pivotal, and it was when I shared about the kind of the creepy sexual shit that my mom did, and I was looking at the floor as I was sharing these things, and my voice was shaking, and I was crying, and I just was, the mean voice in my head was like, "You are so gross. You are so pathetic. You are such an attention whore." And I looked up, and there were fellows in the support group, most of them women, who had tears running down their face. And that was so healing to know I wasn't making too big of a deal of what had happened. The moms really circled the wagons around me, and that helped validate that my pain was real. I was not making too big of a deal of it. So those are the things.
Yeah, we can often come up with that story. And then if we were gaslit in a variety of ways, did this happen? Was it really that bad? Am I adding stuff to it? And then all the confusion. Now you pay it forward in your community where you have your own support community now on Patreon, right? Who would you say is a good fit for that community? Because I can only imagine once you listen to the show, it is the absolute example of not feeling alone with the ugliest, most fucked up parts of you, which is why it's my favorite show. And I would be doing a disservice to you and everyone listening to not share this. I've been holding back because I know I'm going to cry. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you need to hear this. I used to watch your show. So in 1995, I was 17. And so that made me a senior in high school. So I was still in that home and I was still actively being molested a minimum of 5 nights a week and being pimped out. And on my pink TV, I would watch your show. I didn't give a fuck about the movie. Quite frankly, no offense to her, your co-host annoyed the fuck out of me. Like, no offense. It's just,
I'm not offended.
Cup of tea. I knew you were fucked up. And there was something that made me feel safe by hearing your voice on that pink TV, even though I knew within a short period of time, based on when that aired, I was going to be molested.
Wow.
And I won't ever forget it. And obviously that was before the days you could DVR something. Right. But there was something about you and who else? Loveline, like with back in the day, Loveline.
Back in the day, kind of before Adam.
Yeah, exactly. Back the original.
Right. Before he got cranky.
Exactly. You and him, same kind of figure. It was like the grittiness, the darker kind of humor. I had that and it helped me accept that in myself. And I felt very validated through in that way.
Wow. That means a lot to me. And I'm glad you shared that with me. That makes me feel really, really good. Even though you had a pink TV, which is really sad.
It was a pink TV. That was very happy for me. I'd have a TV in my room. That meant you were rich. I mean, that was a big deal.
I've just busted your balls. Because I'm uncomfortable right now because I got a compliment. So I got to find some way.
Well, it was a heavy compliment, but I also wanted to share it of like, I know how many people listening put out content, whether it's a book, it's a podcast, they're a blogger, they're a content creator, and they feel like no one's listening. They're not getting the likes. Hollywood's not calling. No one's downloading their song on Spotify or subscribing to their YouTube channel. It's not true that it's no one. That's not true. There's a fuck ton of Tiffany's that you don't know about that aren't going to write in or maybe comment that you're impacting, and you have no fucking idea that you're doing that.
And that's true for you too.
That's what also I use to remind myself. Because sometimes, man, there's like a wave where you're like, is anyone fucking listening? They're listening.
I was going to say, my girlfriend and I went to see a movie, I don't know, maybe 3-4 years ago. And we were walking out of the movie theater and this guy's walking down the sidewalk and he went, "You're Paul Gilmartin, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Your podcast inspired me to get sober." And I've been sober 2 years now.
How did that feel?
Well, I said, "Get away from me. No pictures." No, I said, "Can I have a hug?" Because I wanted to hug that guy, man.
Yeah.
That felt better than
getting an HBO special.
Yeah, any show business accolade. Not that the getting an HBO special wouldn't have been fucking exciting and life-changing, but it wouldn't have stuck with me. The accolades are like candy, delicious for a minute, but it doesn't last with you. Whereas like a moment like that, I'll remember for the rest of my life. And I don't know, it just fills a part of me, like in a good way, where it's not, oh, that's who I am, but I have a purpose in my life. I think there is no greater sedative than a feeling of meaning and purpose, because it gets us out of ourselves.
It's
You
the
know,
fulfillment, right? And it's you being of service. It's not about, I loved you in that show. You know,
right,
that
right,
doesn't feel good, but that's more
right.
ego. Who would you say would be a good fit to be in your Patreon community? Because it's pretty vulnerable to join a community like
Mhm.
that for the fear of being seen, accepted, judged. What
I
types
think
of people do you have in there?
I think what you just described, and just to be clear, it's for people who are $20 a month and above, monthly donors on Patreon. And there's about 20 of us. We get together every Sunday, 4 to 5:30 Pacific time. And we've been doing it for, I think, 6 weeks. And there's a variety of people, male, female, non-binary, trans, really seekers, people that want to grow, or at the very least, find some connection and comfort in what they're dealing with right now. A lot of people who are having difficulty setting boundaries with family members, people who are feeling really alone, people feeling like their pain isn't valid. And the group is really supportive and really validating. And it's a really nice blend of, there is crosstalk, not when somebody is sharing, but afterwards. And people are, I tell them in the beginning of the meeting, if you do not want feedback on what you shared, please let us know and we won't. But we've yet to have somebody who has said that. So we get such a feeling of camaraderie. And I share, it's not like I'm not the guru going, well,
Right.
here's what you need. I occasionally offer my opinion, but I share about what I'm struggling with, sometimes things that I don't share on air because it feels a little bit, I don't know, safer or
Yeah.
appropriate.
Yeah, it's more intimate. And it starts with you, with even though, yeah, you're not like the leader, right? But you
Right.
are the facilitator. And if you're
Right.
not being vulnerable, it's
Mm-hmm.
harder for it to open that door
Yeah.
to
And
do
there are
that.
people, and there are people who just kind of hang in the background. They might not even have their screen on and they don't share. And I encourage that. I say, whatever level of participation you're comfortable with, we're just glad that you're here.
You guys start out by listening to the show. You will instantly feel not alone. He does something that I love where he reads these surveys where you've had thousands and thousands of people write in their darkest secrets.
And we have episode 666 is coming up. So I'm going to read the darkest surveys
That'll
podcast.
end up being people
Yes.
like me. That'll be like
Yes.
our favorite.
I brought the idea up at the Sunday Patreon thing, and I said, I'm thinking about doing this because a listener had suggested it. What do you guys think? And they were like, fuck yeah. Go ahead. I cut you off.
Yeah, no. I was just thinking like the reason why when you read those surveys, it reminds us how every single person in this world, every career, every what identifying quality they have, we all have deep dark shit,
Mm-hmm.
and it releases the shame, and
It
you know that
does.
you're not alone, and at least do that for yourself so you're not sitting in it, because sitting in that shame alone, you can keep doing it, but I'm going to tell you, pretty soon it turns into a grave.
It does. It does. One of the things I like to say is your feelings aren't going to kill you, but running from them might.
Yeah, I appreciate you so much.
Oh, right back at you. Right back at you. You're so easy to talk to, and you ask such great questions. Who was the first? I found myself wanting to know this question, when I shared about that meeting where I shared the things that happened to me, and I looked up and, people were moved by it. Who is the first person that you opened up to about what was happening to you, and what was that like? The first person that you felt
Yeah.
seen and
This
embraced
is
by.
going to sound really wild, and I would love to have him on the show. I don't think I've had the balls to ask him. It was my news director, who of
Really?
course I was fucking.
Yeah. Just to complicate matters.
And to sabotage part of my career, and
Sure.
obviously his. But he had a brilliant man, but a very well read, well educated. I think he had a double major in psychology. He saw me. He saw through all of it. But built a lot of trust first.
Right.
And then highlighted. That's what's his favorite thing to do. You get scripts back with red pen, like sucks. And he took the book Toxic Parents and highlighted a whole section and went off to work or whatever in the morning. I was at his house and left it open for me to read, which I thought was actually a very gentle approach, really. And I went, oh, fuck. He sees me. He knows. That was the first. And then it opened up a conversation. So he was truly, and all that was supposed to happen, even me sleeping with him, because that level of even sexual intimacy created enough of a trust that I could feel safe and receive that from him.
Yeah. There's a lot of us that wind up getting that moment of connection or feeling that it's going to be okay to continue to open up more in ways that seemingly on the surface are like, was that a good thing? But then down the road you go, it had to happen for
it had to happen that way.
Yeah.
And I had great admiration and respect for him as well. So it wasn't coming from someone who like at that time in my life where I just go, oh, what an idiot. It had to be him.
Yeah.
And that's proof to me of the higher power was always at work. Even when I thought God forgot about me, when I look back and when I got into step 3 and I found a God of my understanding, it's undeniable all the things that really have happened and that I'm even alive. Like I was being cared for.
And was he the first person you told or the first person you felt seen by when you shared it?
Both.
Yeah.
I told people I was raped at 15, a date rape, not saying that to minimize it, just to qualify it. And that was more socially acceptable in my mind to share with some people I dated in college. Like I was raped, but to say I was what my real story, fuck no. Because it was still happening. I was being molested till I was 21 years old while I was on air still. So that I mean, I couldn't share that, but I could share that I was raped with people, that there was less shame around that for me. I'm not quite sure why, but there was less shame.
Yeah.
So that was big for me. And I told him who the primary molester was and that it was still happening. So he even knew, and he helped me put that to an end. He said, this person is not allowed here ever again. I needed someone else to give me permission. Probably had to be a male. Give me permission to where this isn't happening anymore. And if this person shows up, you let me know and I'll be there in a second. And that's how it ended.
Is there any better feeling than knowing somebody has our back or we're showing up and backing somebody else up?
Both. I'm solid as fuck. You want me in your life. I've got you. But there's a very short list of the people I feel that way about in return. And they're so dear to me. And they're from recovery. That's one of the gifts. And everything I say sounds like a fucking cliche from the fucking book, but it's true.
Yeah.
And it works if you work.
It really does. There were times, the second support group I started going to, the first 9 months, I sat in the back with my arms folded, didn't get to know anybody, didn't pitch in and help with setting chairs up, left as soon as the meeting was over, and I got nowhere. And then I kind of had a moment of clarity about 9 months in. It's like, I need to go to more meetings, get to know people, help out, and go to the bite to eat afterwards that everybody goes to.
It'd be like going to the gym and sitting at the smoothie bar expecting to get fit.
Exactly. I love talking to you, Tiffany.
Any support that you need for your community, you've got it. You've got it here.
I appreciate it.